It's the kind.
Yeah. Wake up with coffee and sports. Sunrise glow, listen coast to coast. A flow like you know.
Offensively, who made them? Oh, Patrick Mahomes.
Sideline to sideline with plays to show. This network's got the spark.
When you put up 300 yards rushing against someone, that you got your butt whooped.
I feel like I would have liked to see Oregon Ohio State in the semis, not the quarters. So I think some reseeding is probably where I would change. But
they're out of their mind. They're going to do this 3 quarterbacks in a row.
Here's the crazy.
I just can't take it.
Birds keep flying high, fans cheering loud, and one podcast moving through the crowd. Meaty boys brawling, no holds barred bout. This wire life never in doubt. Tune into the vibe.
That's my bold prediction for the show. Devin Booker, in the next 3 years, he will be a Houston Rocket.
Because I still think Seth is still at the top of his game. I do. I think he's right there. Who knows? Maybe not this year, but one time soon. Why wouldn't we potentially see Seth and Roman? You know what I mean?
Tune in the vibe. Morning Reds, good centers. Got me on the mic now, let's spill the tea. Talking courtside dreams from history. Legends on the blacktop now and then. From Will to Steph, we hit it again. Better chimes in, let's go deep. Young bloods rising, can't skip a beat. Puppy prospects with fire in their eyes. Draft night suckers and hoop dream high. Wire to wire, bring the heat. Podcast magic can't be beat. Do better, we're more better. We're hoop heads, trendsetters.
What's poppin', y'all? It is your boy, Guard3, and welcome to the And One podcast. Now, I know we're starting a little bit later tonight. That is my fault. I took a nap. You know, I'm about to turn 30 this year. I'm going to be over the hill, so I needed my extra nap, apparently. Of course, joining us, just like every week, is Mo. Better. How you doing, Mo?
I'm doing great, Brett. You know what? There's nothing wrong with a nap, partner. And appreciate everybody in the chat for hopping on. Let's get into it.
It's funny. You know what? People say, "Oh, you're only 30, you don't feel old," but I've gotten roasted a couple times at work for being old. I told a funny story about that. My one coworker asked who invented the Philly cheesesteak. So I Googled it, and they're like, "Oh, invented in South Philly in 1930." And he just looks at me and goes, "You were there for that, right?" I'm like, ouch. I didn't think I was that old.
They're starting the old jokes. I love it.
Right? But yeah, you know how it is, Mo, the underrated player of the week. Every week, we just like to take some players we think don't get enough love, and we like to give them some spotlight. So, Mo, why don't we start with you? Who do you think, who's your underrated player of the week this week?
This guy's actually one of my favorite underrated players of all time. I'm talking about the co-host of the All the Smoke podcast, Captain Jack Steven Jackson. I think Captain Jack is one of the great streak shooters in NBA history. A great scorer. It don't get caught up in efficiency because I'm letting you know ahead of time he was a streaky shooter, but a terrific scorer. I think Captain Jack he's got 6 seasons where he averaged 18 or more points per game in his career. 3 of those seasons was over 20 points per game. Captain Jack was a bucket, could shoot from distance, could take you off the bounce, could post, and he was a fierce competitor on the defensive side of the basketball. So I'm going to show some flowers. I'm going to give flowers, show some love to my guy, Steven Jackson, Captain Jack.
And you know what? That's a great pick. He definitely helped those Spurs teams out a ton. That's where, he seemingly had the most impact. He was a great fit down there in San Antonio. Yeah. I know, you know what? I'm going to go with the Pacers. Pacers, Pelicans, Spurs, Warriors guy. Let me show some love to David West. Always
Cool.
love me some David West, just absolutely knocked down from the mid range. Just a very professional player and gave you some solid defense. Could stretch the floor out to a solid 20 feet. I don't think he gets enough love at times with, how he helped those Paul George led Pacer teams take the Heat to 7. They give, Paul George a lot of credit, and rightfully so. But those teams were very good, and a lot of that started with guys like, Roy Hibbert, David West. So I'm going to give some flowers to David West.
I love the David West pick. Whenever I see David West, the first player I think of who I think is basically very similar to David West, except that he extended his range even more later in his career. I think guys like David West and Al Horford are winning basketball players. They provide a different kind of toughness. They find ways to win. Like David West was a tough guy, but he was a quiet tough guy, the same way Al Horford is. They're very competitive, and they can give you whatever is needed night per night. So I love guys like David West and Al Horford who impact games on the court, and they're culture guys in the locker room. So that's a great pick.
So before we get into our Mount Rushmore, Mo, obviously we had the schedule released today for the NBA. And the biggest thing that killed me, Mo, was the NBA announced Rivals Week. Did you see some of these matchups in Rivals Week?
Yeah, I was kind of blown away because, and maybe I'm alone in this, I know nothing about a Hornets Cavaliers rivalry. Like the Hornets are so bad. When you're that bad, you don't have any rivals. You're certainly like not anybody's rival. Like I guess if you nitpick, the Hornets could be like the Jazz's rival for who's the worst team in basketball, but that's laughable when they said it's rivalry week and they go Hornets Cavaliers. Like when was that ever a thing?
I think it would have made more sense even if you brought the Twitter beef into fruition and just went Wizards Hornets. Like to me, right? Them announcing rivalry week made me realize how little rivalries we actually have in the game. But also it also feels like because we're not spotlighting the right ones. Like Bucks Pacers, I think has been a rivalry over the past couple of years at least, with all the playoff knockouts and the altercations. So naturally, they're both playing in rivalry week against the Thunder. Thunder Pacers makes sense, finals matchup, but Bucks Pacers, why are they rivals? Because they played once in the in-season tournament?
Yeah.
That threw me off. And I just don't get that. I'm just lost. I feel I don't know how, but man, they got to find a way to really bring back some rivalries. And I feel like the loss of rivalries kind of got almost exaggerated once they took out the division winners having any in the playoff spot. Now it's just decided by record. But man, it feels like once they took out the division winner getting that guaranteed top 4 spot, felt like there's a lot less to, fight with your division rivals about, and that kind of hurt some of these rivalries.
I think you brought up an excellent point. This rivalry week schedule shows you just how little in terms of rivalries the current NBA has. I'm with you if you want to talk about Pacers versus Thunder because they met in the finals. That makes sense to me. You might be able to pull off to some degree. You could have said Denver and Oklahoma City, or Denver and the Timberwolves, because I feel like they have unfinished business between them. That could have worked. I'm not sure Denver and the Lakers are a rivalry. And I'm a Laker fan, but I don't feel that that's a rivalry. I'm sure Joker doesn't feel it's a rivalry because all they end up doing is beating the Lakers. So that's not a rivalry. A rivalry usually means you kind of go back and forth, not get slapped down every time you play the other guy. So I just think that the schedule makers, they realized they had little to work with, so they just kind of went for broke off the top of their head.
No, absolutely. By the way, what's up, Sergeant? Thank you for tuning in, sir. Say, opening week, it sounds like a lot of fun. Tuesday, we're kicking off the season with some Rockets and Thunder. Nuggets and Wolves have unfinished business. Fair enough.
Yeah, I said that. Yeah.
Hey, apparently not as much as the Cavs and Hornets.
You know what, Brett? You know what? We probably should do a watch along for that.
I am so down. The most random rivalry of all time.
I'm going to have some time to study the Hornets roster top to bottom because I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't know everybody that's on that roster.
Oh, you know what? Listen. I plan on getting 2K this year, and on low key, I do enjoy using the Hornets.
Really?
For some reason, I'm just very good at shooting off the dribble with LaMelo Ball, and I can just do a lot of great things just from that alone.
Okay.
So, say opening week, Mo, we got a couple of great potential watch-alongs. Tuesday, we're opening it up with Rockets and Thunder, and then Lakers Warriors.
I think Rockets and Thunder will be really interesting. I mean, I know it's the first game or second game, but if you're Houston, I don't care how early it is. You want to send a message to OKC from the jump, like, yeah, we're the ones you got to look over your shoulder at.
Say we also, and then Thursday, which would be our first time to possibly do a watch along, unless we switch dates with Meaty Boys. We got OKC Indy rematch and Nuggets Warriors. So other games that week: Cavs Knicks, Spurs Mavs, Celtics Knicks, and Wolves Lakers are the other primetime games for that week.
I think it's a solid week overall. And you know what? Had they not led with the rivalry week theme, I would have been fine with it.
Yeah, my Thunder playing KD and the Rockets on opening night. KD returning to OKC and seeing the Thunder banner drop. Yeah, you know they did that intentionally. There's no way. They thought about that. They made sure KD was going to be there to watch the banner drop. It's funny to me, like, on a certain level, though, I feel like KD's probably happy that his old team won a ring finally. It's so weird.
There is a beef between him and the fan base, right?
Oh yeah.
I think he's genuinely happy for the fan base. Even if for whatever reason they can't accept the fact that he left and won in Golden State. And you know, fans have the right to feel how they feel. I don't agree with that because that's the whole point of free agency. You can make decisions on your own career. You can decide your own fate. KD didn't think he was going to win a title in Oklahoma City, and I'm in the category of saying we'll never know. But I knew when he went to Golden State what was going to happen, and it did.
It's so weird to me, right? Because we were having a debate in a different chat if KD, you know, was going to get his jersey retired by OKC. Because I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, you don't have the career KD did with OKC and you don't retire his jersey. But there are some OKC fans that are like, absolutely not, that traitor. I'm like, dog, that's a decade ago. Let it go. Like, that is 10 years ago, and you guys have your ring. Like, honestly, by the time we're talking KD and, like, KD jersey retirements, I'm guessing that's not another, like, 5 years from now.
Right.
If it's 2031 and you're still not over the fact that in 2015 KD left you, like, I'm sorry, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you just got to let it go at some point. You'd be much happier that way.
And it should be easier to let it go. Like you said, you guys just won the title. You just won the title with one of the youngest cores to win a title in NBA history. The future is bright for Oklahoma City. Now, I don't know if they're going to two-peat or three-peat, but I do believe, barring a major injury, do I think Oklahoma City could be San Antonio-like? and win 2 or 3 titles in a 5-year span, yeah. I don't think they're going to win 3 in a row, but I don't think they're done winning titles either.
Also, the funniest part about the schedule, tied for first with the most back-to-backs, and this is the meanest thing they could have done, the Philadelphia 76ers. They know Joel Embiid, he's not going to play in back-to-backs. Who knows if Paul George is going to. And they're like, yeah, let's give him 16 of them. So I have no clue how they're going to navigate that. Like, are they just going to pair them? Like, Paul George will play the first game and Embiid the second? Like, that will be interesting how they navigate that.
Hey, go hard with your young guys, Maxey, McCain, the young man out of Duke they just drafted. Go hard with those guys. Go hard with them. It's weird that Philly is at the top of that list. And look, I don't know if it was done out of spite or if that's just the way things fell. But I think it's a good opportunity knowing how Embiid intends to approach this season. It's going to give one of the younger guys a chance to step up. I think it's going to give VJ and some of the other guys a chance to step up, and I think they'll be up to the challenge.
No, absolutely. Like, there's a stretch in February, Mo. It's just kind of brutal for them in terms of playing like Philly. Like, they go versus Denver, versus New Orleans, February 8th and 9th. Then they play next on the 13th, but it starts another back-to-back against the Pistons and Jazz. And then they get a solid 8 days off. And then get another back-to-back against the Warriors and Spurs. And I'm just looking at things like that, like, you would think they would just, like, instead of, like, hitting all those games and, like, a 15-day stretch or whatever, like, just kind of spread them out. And you don't need to run 3 back-to-backs in a row. Granted, they have an 8-day, like, rest between the second and third back-to-back, but still 3 back-to-backs in a row is just pretty crazy.
That is crazy. I agree. But you know what? Daryl Morey and company, they'll make it happen. They'll make it work. It's all good.
Yeah, fair enough. So, you know what? Well, why don't we get into it? We're at the Central Division. We got some Mount Rushmores to talk about. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So, why don't we start off with the Pistons? Now, the Pistons, they have quite the history. They obviously have a couple of championships in the 90s. They went back-to-back in 89 and 90. And then 04, and in the mid-2000s, 5 straight Eastern Conference Finals, 2 final trips. So there's a lot of talent to choose from. But I put up here IT, Joe Dumars, and then some of their legends from the 70s, Lanier and Dave Bing.
And I think I was thinking about Billups. I was thinking about Rip. I don't think either one of them clear Dumars and Zeke. Remember, I think Zeke's like a 9-time All-Star, made a couple All-NBA, made some All-NBA teams, and a Finals MVP. Dumars is a 6-time All-Star, made a couple of All-NBAs, and he also is a Finals MVP. Not to mention, he was a regular on the All-NBA defensive team as well. So I think those two were easy. I think Dave Bing, if you look at his body of work, I'm talking about his numbers, I can understand why he would be there. Bob Lanier was a monster in his time with Detroit. Perennial All-Star. You could book him, double-double guy. If you were going to, I guess, consider moving someone out, my guess is it would be Lanier. You might move him out because Lanier was, as great as he was offensively, he was nowhere near the defender, obviously, that Ben Wallace was. Ben Wallace is one of the great defenders of all time. And another guy who led the league in rebounding, I want to say 6 or 7 times in a row. Won DPOY 4 times. So maybe you could certainly make a case for Ben Wallace. I wouldn't call it crazy, but I would also say that you can make a strong case for Bob Lanier for how great a player he was. Like, he did everything you could do in a Pistons uniform except win a title.
No, that's fair enough. And you know what? Lanier even had a little bit of range to him. So he had such a diverse game for a big. I love that. And Dave Bing could easily fit into one of our underrated player of the week segments. He doesn't get enough love, but
I agree.
when the NBA dropped that top 50 list, Dave Bing was on that list. He was a very talented individual.
And deserving.
So, and like so, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions of our Mount Rushmores. I'm pretty confident that I actually nailed the 4 right. Believe me, there's going to be some discussions to be had in a couple of slides here. But Detroit, I think this is the right call.
Me too.
Alrighty, of course, we have the Cavs. I think the first two are a lock. When we're talking LeBron and Kyrie, like those two, absolute locks for this. I think Mark Price is also a lock for this. To me, the conversation starts at Brad Daugherty, and I'm comfortable putting Brad Daugherty here over someone like Kevin Love. I know Kevin Love was the third member of the Big Three and won the title, but at the end of the day, I think Brad Daugherty simply had the longer and better career on the Cavaliers than Kevin Love.
No question. You pointed out Kevin Love was the third option on that title-winning team. Brad Daugherty was the second option on the team, and obviously it came up short. Actually, at times he was the leading scorer. People forget Brad Daugherty made. I think he was a 5-6-time All-Star. You could book him for like 19 and 9 with four assists. Terrific offensive player. Could step away 15 feet from the basket. Just an all-around versatile player. He had to cut his career short because of back problems, but Kevin Love wasn't a better Cavalier than Brad Daugherty. I mean, when you say it, you go greatest Cavalier player. Now, if you got into another conversation and said who's the greater player, I would probably give the edge to Love.
And I completely agree with that. I think that's definitely an important thing to note, that obviously we're just talking about the individual teams. And as soon as that happens, then yeah. Because, we can talk about the 2016 finals, but we got to remember, like, what happens after that with Kevin Love, too, because he was kind of underwhelming in the 2017 finals and 18. And then, of course, as soon as LeBron left, he got really disinterested really fast in playing for Cleveland. And it was a really brutal ending. So, overall, it was a tough, though, between Brad and Kevin for that last spot, but I think you got it right with Brad.
I do too. I think your 4 is spot on. People who don't know Mark Price, I would tell them to go to YouTube, pull up a Mark Price. Matter of fact, you can probably pull up a Mark Price Brad Daugherty highlight reel, and you can see how well those two worked the 2-man game. People that deserve some honorable mention: Larry Nance, terrific 2-way power forward. James Silas.
Big Z.
Big Z, yes, he should get some love. I feel like I'm missing somebody else. Ron Harper, the first 2 or 3 years of his career, he was electric before the injury that changed everything. But yeah, Ron Harper was nice. It was. Look, the Cavaliers have a really good history, and what they were wanting, or they were left wanting, up until LeBron delivered to them, was a championship. And now they have that. And you and I were talking before the show. We believe firmly, give us another 5-7 years or so, and somebody that's currently playing for the Cavs, be it Evan Mobley or D. Mitch, is going to be in that top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said earlier, I think it's going to be Evan Mobley. I think he's going to be the guy to crack into this top 4, and I think D. Mitch has a chance too. So I definitely think those two are my guys that I would be looking out for. Say, Pacers is so much fun. Because this is also tough. Man, when we're talking the Pacers, I think the 4 spot to me is where this gets challenged because I'm confident in Reggie, Jermaine, and Paul George. I'm very confident in those guys. I put Rick Smits here, and there's other guys that played like Mel Daniels.
Great Mel Daniels, yes.
So like you can go a lot of different ways here. Like you can go like Mel Daniels, but it's so tough when we're talking about the Pacers because I also think Rick Smith sometimes gets a little underrated too because he was a very good player, but unfortunately, the Pacers weren't exactly must-watch TV back in the day. So a lot of people's first impression is him trying to guard like prime Shaq in the finals and just getting put under the basket. And I think all that almost maybe took away from just how good Rick really was all the year for Indiana and just his whole career for Indiana.
I'm with you. So let's shout out Rick Smith because he was an underrated player. Look, we could have him on our underrated player thing. Rick Smith I believe he was 7'4", with a great touch, great face-up game, could shoot the ball from 15 feet in, had a nice post game. Not a dominant rebounder, but a good rebounder. And his career was the struggle in his career was he had bad feet, and it affected his play, and it affected him in and out of the lineup. But he was a great player. If you want to give me some honorable mentions, you mentioned the great Mel Daniels. I would add the rifleman himself, Chuck Person. Another great pacer. I believe Danny Granger was a 5 or 6 time All-Star. Danny Granger was a terrific player. So I think there are a lot of guys that maybe if you want to haggle could have moved Rick Smith out. But I don't think having Rick Smith in that 4th spot is crazy. I don't think it's crazy at all. So I think you nailed it.
Oh, I do love Danny Granger. I think Granger definitely would have been on here if he didn't unfortunately have injuries that just shortened his career.
Right.
So he was somebody I thought was he was somebody that I thought was going to push the Pacers over the edge in 2013 before obviously he just kept suffering injury after injury.
It's weird, right? Because in a lot of ways, Danny Granger was Paul George before Paul George.
Pacers are interesting because if you're the franchise star of the Pacers, you're just bound to have some horrible injury luck. Like, obviously, Granger had injury problems. Paul George, we all know about the injury at the Team USA practice. Halliburton's Achilles. Like, there's just something about the Pacers that lately in the last, if you're like their guy, for some reason, you just suffer the worst injury possible at the worst time. Because I remember before Paul George, hurt his leg, there was a lot of hype about them possibly going to the finals. But as soon as Paul George got hurt, that was it for that.
To his credit, and I don't think Paul George gets enough credit for this, that injury made Paul George have to get in the lab and become a better ball handler and a better shooter. Like the Paul George we got afterwards wasn't as athletic as the previous Paul George, but he was a more well-rounded basketball player.
No, absolutely. Fair enough. I do, of course, the next team is near and dear to my heart. Milwaukee Bucks. And I know there's only one conversation, in my opinion, to be had about this one. And that's obviously the Big O. I think the last spot to me came down to the Big O or Chris Middleton. I really like having Moncrief, here, back-to-back DPOY winner. His only problem was he just kept running into Larry Bird in the playoffs. Kareem and Giannis are just locks probably forever.
Forever. Yeah, I would by the way, I want this for you. You're my partner. Should you guys get another transcendent player on that level, that's the only kind of guy that can move one of them out of the picture.
Yeah. Hey, we need to have like 3 of those guys in order to finally knock one of them off. So if we get like 3 more transcendent talents that can knock off like a Giannis or a Kareem, I'd be ecstatic, honestly. because that probably gets us a couple more finals down the road at some point.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kareem took you to 2 finals, won 1. Obviously a finals MVP. He won 3 MVPs. Giannis has won 2, took you to a finals, got a finals MVP. And I firmly believe Giannis has another MVP in him. So when it's all said and done, I think Kareem and Giannis will both have at least 3 MVPs to go with all their other accolades. And I don't think Giannis is winning titles. I don't think he's done winning titles. I think he will get at least one more in his career. I just think it's a matter of adding the right guy. He doesn't need a lot. He just needs a running mate.
You know what? Yeah, and I think that this year, it's almost why I think waiving Dame after sitting on it for a while is probably a good idea for this year, because it allowed us to get younger and faster, getting guys like Miles Turner. Because I think one of the biggest problems with the Bucks and them trying to construct teams around Giannis is they're just too slow. They're too unathletic. Like, you have the most devastating transition finisher we have seen in a while, and you just put a team around him that can't run in transition. So I think getting a guy like, Miles Turner and even like Kyle Kuzma, guys that can actually, get out on the break and run in transition, I think that'll make us all the more dangerous.
I think adding Miles Turner is so smart because he's one of the better catch and shoot bigs in the NBA. And I think that because of all the attention that Giannis draws, he's going to become Miles Turner's best friend.
No, absolutely. Like, it's so weird. At first, the $22 million seemed like a lot of dead money, and it is, to be fair. It's a good amount. But, with the cap going up, and also, like, I thought about it more, and I'm like, what's really the difference between us having $22 million in dead money and, like, for example, the Bulls paying $20 million to Patrick Williams? Like, is there really much of a difference here in having Dame dead money, or just having guys who are unplayable on different contracts? So
look, I don't like banging on players, but if we're being fair, Dame is injured, wasn't part of your future. I get it's dead money, but the trade-in was you were able to get a Miles Turner who's still in his mid-20s versus, like you said, Patrick Williams, who I don't have anything against the kid. My problem with Patrick Williams being in the NBA is not that he doesn't deserve to be in there, and I don't think he's a good competitor. My problem is with the Bulls management, the Bulls GM, the Bulls draft room. They really looked at Patrick Williams and said, you know what? This guy's a transcendent player. This guy's a franchise player. Everybody that was in that draft room that said that should be fired. That's my problem. Not that Patrick Williams was drafted, but where he was drafted.
Oh, the reports came out after he got drafted. Like, they think he's going to be the next Kawhi. I'm like, there's your first mistake, trying to draft the next Kawhi.
Yeah. Because
you don't just simply draft. You don't find that guy normally. You just kind of get lucky with a guy like Kawhi.
I think you're right. You kind of get lucky. Again, if Patrick Williams, let's say he were drafted like 28th in the first round or 31st in the second round, the conversation would be different because we would all be saying Patrick Williams is a really good, solid rotation player that impacts the game. Because I think he can be that. But that's not what they brought him in for. They brought him in for, Brett, Patrick Williams is the guy that eventually we're going to build around. He was never that guy.
No, that's fair enough. And with the Dame dead money, like, by the time it like really affects us, like by the time it really bothers us, they're like, well, 2-3 years from now, it's like, well, if things don't improve 2-3 years from now, like, Giannis is probably gone, or our contending window is probably pretty closed anyway at that point. So, like, I don't really care about like 3 years from now. That's not a concern to me. Let's try to make one last push for this championship with Giannis this year and next year. And
I think that's the way you have to look at it, because I think that the Bucks GM, he and his team got together and said, if we get an opportunity and we can get Miles Turner, we're making a move for right now, right? Because that's what you got to do. when you've got a player like Giannis, you don't go, well, Giannis, next year is going to be a down year, but then after that, we're going to hook you up. Like, you don't do that. This guy's in his prime, and he's one of the 2 best players in the NBA. You make moves to complement his skill set. You know what I'm saying? Like, you make moves that will benefit him.
No, absolutely. So, yeah. And then when it came down to the Chris Middleton, Oscar Robinson debate, it was really simple to me. Chris Middleton is pretty much etched in franchise history as the best or second best player in a lot of different statistical categories. Second best guy to win a championship, homegrown, developed. And just overall, when it comes to, when it came to our franchise, I think just watching him just get developed from the beginning and just becoming the player that he did, it meant a lot. When it comes to the Big O, a terrific basketball player, but we got him at the end of his career. Like, by the time our second championship rolled around, he was more like, kind of like the lowercase O. Like, he was great, but he just clearly wasn't the Big O anymore. So I'm definitely not knocking the Big O. I definitely think he was the 4th guy on here, but I'm confident enough to say that I think Chris Middleton has knocked him off at this point.
Yeah, look, I'll simplify. We kind of did this earlier with Kevin Love and who was it? It was
Brad Doherty.
Right. Brad Doherty was a better Cavalier. There's no question Oscar Robertson is the greater player. But this isn't about the greater player. It's about who was the best Buck. And the truth is, even though Oscar Robertson helped you win your first title, beyond that, if you look at his career with the Bucks and Chris Middleton's career, it's not even close. Chris Middleton was a better Buck.
Yeah, no, and I agree. So some other honorable mentions are, Big Dog Robinson,
Big Dog.
Ray Allen, obviously.
Yes, don't forget about Jesus, Sam Cassell, Marcus Johnson, Junior Bridgman. Yeah, I love all of it, man. Paul Pressey, remember Paul Pressey?
Yeah.
Dope.
John McLaughlin.
Oh, another one, and don't forget, Bob Lanier was kind of nice when he was with the Bucks too. Even though it was an older version of Lanier, but he was nice there too. Like, you guys have a rich history, but I think that the 4 guys that you have, to me, I think you got it right. I think you nailed it, partner.
I will say the one other guy I have to shout out, just because he was my favorite player growing up, Michael Redd, the original 22.
Yes. Michael Redd. You know what? Michael Redd, we talked about this before. We joked about this. I think when Michael Jordan was looking at Kid Gilchrist, for some reason, Michael Jordan looked at Kid Gilchrist and said, he's like Michael Redd. He'll be the next Michael Redd with that weird slingshot shot. The only difference is Michael Redd actually took a jump shot. Kid Gilchrist looked like he was arm wrestling himself when he shot.
Yes, with Kid Gilchrist, it looked like it physically hurt him to shoot a jumper. Like, it was weird. Like, you would have thought of shooting. He's always a great example, because he's the perfect example, by the way, of something I always say, because at draft time, you hear the same thing. You'll see a prospect, that's elite at defense with a shaky jumper, and it's, we can fix his jumper, no problem. And I'm always like, look at Kid Gilchrist. That guy got drafted high. Why? Because he was an elite defender, and you thought, I can fix his jumper. Doesn't always work out like that. Believe me, if you could magically fix everybody's jumper, Andre Roberson would probably still be in the NBA with how good he was at defense.
These are facts. Kid Gilchrist's jump shot looked like a wrestling finisher. It looked painful.
Yeah, and if people, I think one playoff series to me that just almost exemplifies the greatness of Michael Redd. Look at the 2005 series versus the Pistons. First round, this is the same defense that absolutely stifled Kobe the year prior in the NBA Finals. They gave him problems. Michael Redd handle that defense really well. He actually did great against an elite Pistons defense. Like, the way he was able to just still get his shot and would calmly, just score, even though you knew he was the number one option. Like, he showed a lot. Like, he pretty much dominated in a way that even guys like Kobe struggled against an insane Pistons defense. And he's such an elite hooper. And maybe even better, he's also just one of my favorite people to follow now because he's just such a great guy too, like progressing the game always, like giving everybody their flowers and props. So he's just genuinely a great hooper and also just a great guy in general. So always love Michael Redd. Like I said, my original favorite Buck.
I'm with you. Big Michael Redd fan.
I'll say, and of course, the last one. Now, this is probably where the conversation really happens, Mo, right? Because we're at the Bulls. I know. I already know I messed up. I shout out Vladimir Radmanovic. He probably should be on here somewhere. Vlad the Impaler. Say, hey, I'm glad you like Glenn Robinson, by the way, Kyle.
Oh yeah, big dog.
Say, so to me, the top two are locks. Michael and Scotty. I don't think there's any debate ever about where those two stand on the Bulls Mount Rushmore besides 1 and 2. To me, though, spots 3 and 4 are rather interesting, right? Now, to me, it's almost like a four-player race. Horace Grant, Derrick Rose, the A-Train Artist Gilmore, or Dennis Rodman. And I know a lot of people will immediately go to Dennis Rodman, but I do think that there are better basketball players on the Chicago Bulls than Dennis Rodman, like Horace Grant, like a Derrick Rose, and even an Artist Gilmore. I do think that Dennis Rodman, at times, like, as great as he was defensively, I think that sometimes he gets put a little overblown, but at the end of the day, I'm not here to diminish his greatness today, and he's definitely in the conversation for one of these last 2 spots.
I agree. But the question is the greatest Bulls. And so the first three-peat, that Bulls team is better than the second Bulls team. I don't care about the 72 wins. I'm just saying that first Bulls team was better than the second Bulls team. And Horace Grant was a better player than Dennis Rodman was. He was a better all-around player. And he was more impactful in the 3 finals that he played in. Remember, Dennis Rodman was amazing in that first finals versus the Sonics. Like, he had a case, an outside case, if you will, but he had a case for MVP, finals MVP. But the other 2 times he was in the finals, obviously back-to-back versus the Jazz, Dennis Rodman was a part-time player. He was a part-time player because he was overwhelmed trying to guard Karl Malone. Jerry Sloan told Karl Malone one thing. He said, you got one job. You stay body to body with Dennis Rodman at all times. And he did that in a way that he nullified the one thing that Dennis Rodman was dominant at, which was rebounding. Both of those series, Dennis Rodman averaged single-digit rebounds for the series. That was because of Karl Malone. And because he couldn't really guard Karl Malone, they had to play Bison Daly because that was somebody that Karl Malone actually had to play defense versus, because Bison Daly was more effective than Dennis Rodman. So, again, we're not talking about who had the greater career. We're talking about who was the greater Chicago Bull. Horace Grant was a better basketball player than Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, but could Horace Grant go on a bender in Vegas, then show up and grab 20 rebounds?
No, he could not. He probably couldn't. But he could get on an airplane after a road loss and not eat because Michael wouldn't get him fed. So think about that. Like, Horace he fasted basically. Would Dennis do that?
No.
No,
Yeah.
all jokes aside, we're not banging on the greatness. We're not banging on the greatness of Dennis Rodman. Where I just think that Horace was a better all around player his tenure with the Bulls than what Dennis was. That's all I'm saying.
No, and I agree with that. That's kind of why I have him up here. He was just more of a more complete player than Dennis Rodman. When it came down to like clutch time, for example, you kind of had to take Dennis out of these games because you knew they were going to exploit his, lack of anything on offense. Whereas you could actually just kind of keep Horace in the entire game, and there wasn't a way to really exploit him on the offensive end. Like, it allowed him to be playable. So, and then of course, D Rose, to me, arguably, one of the biggest what ifs in NBA history.
Oh man.
But man, he still had an insane peak that a few can dream of. Youngest MVP in the league. Just an absurd talent. It is just so unfortunate that Derrick got injured.
Oh man, those first 3 years, they were amazing. Like, and you kept thinking there's going to be more. Like, he's only going to get better. Then obviously the injuries came, and he never really could get back to what he was. But just those 3 years, what he did, he made Chicago relevant again. And for him to capture the MVP at such a young age, be the best player at that age on a team that won over 60 games, like, he deserves his flowers. He had a shortened career, but in terms of what he did as a Bull, Derrick Rose had a profound impact on that franchise.
Yeah, put Reggie Tice. His teams were so bad, the Bulls were able to get Jordan. You have a point.
No. Look, Kyle. It just goes to show you really know your NBA. Reggie Theus was a bad basketball player. He could score, but whoever he was guarding was going to score even more. Reggie Theus wasn't out there to win basketball games. He was out there to get buckets.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Derrick Rose, he just had also. He's so funny because, like, he's one of those guys that, people would be like, he seems so easy to stop. Just force him to shoot. But I don't think they realized how hard it was to keep Derrick Rose on the perimeter because of his insane speed and change of direction. Like, you can try to force him to shoot, but he was just also just almost impossible to stay in front of. So, like, how do you keep him at the 3-point line when you can't stay in front of him?
The separation between Derrick Rose and Russell Westbrook is Derrick Rose's incredible ability to change directions, to go side to side. Like, Derrick Rose, when he's in attack mode, looks like Barry Sanders in the open field, but he's on a basketball court. Russ couldn't change directions like that. Derrick Rose actually had a really strong and tight handle. Russ is ultra quick and freakishly athletic, but the truth is he doesn't really have a tight handle. It's just that he's so quick and ultra athletic, you don't dare reach. But what Rose could do is, even if you try to trap him, he splits you, and then he'd split you and he'd attack your big man at the rim. Like, watching Derrick Rose, like, those early years, like, I'm not a Bulls fan, but just as a fan of basketball, I just thoroughly enjoyed watching the young man go for it.
Oh, one of my favorite calls is still when and just one of my favorite posters of his is, I still don't know what he was thinking, and that was such a great call out by the Bulls announcers. Who was that? Stacey King. But yeah, no, he posterized Goran Dragic, and he tears just screaming, "What are you doing, Dragic? Did you not get the memo?" And I'm just like, you know what? That's fair. Like, prime Derrick Rose is, like, definitely somebody that I'm not trying to jump with.
I've seen him get what's the guy that played for the Heat? Joel Anthony, the center.
Oh yeah,
he actually did what I said. He split the defense, and Joel Anthony tried to meet him at the rim, and Derrick Rose just posterized him. Like, Derrick Rose, when he went to the basket, didn't matter who was at the rim. Did not matter. Like, just so relentless and fearless. He was fearless at attacking the basket the way Iverson was, and maybe that's why we admired him so much.
No, absolutely. So, yeah, say those are our Mount Rushmores for the Central Division. We're gonna have our last division next week, fun because that's obviously Kyle. What are you doing next week? You hop on because that's the Celtics.
Come on, Kyle. You got to tell us. My guess is Kyle's going to say top 4 Celtics. Kyle's going to go Bird, Russell. Is Garnett? Did he? I mean, he did win a title, but is he a Celtic through and through? Would you have Garnett over Dave Cowens or Kevin McHale?
I don't know if I'd have KG over his teammate Paul Pierce.
As a Celtic, right?
Yeah,
no, that's right because Pierce is the greater Celtic, even though Garnett's the greater player. I think you and we would all agree on that. That's a tough one. I think Pierce is in the top 4. The question is, who's getting the last spot? Is it going to be McHale or Cowens, Dennis Johnson?
I think it's like a 3-way running for the last spot. You want to go McHale, Parrish, or Hondo?
Oh, dang, good one, Brett. Or Hondo. Hondo's got as strong a case as anybody. I think he won an MVP. He was an 8-time champion, multiple-time All-Star. Yeah.
The greatest John in NBA history. I will fight for that, by the way. I truly believe it. And this all stems from debating about John Stockton. And then I posed the question, is John Stockton the greatest John in NBA history? And I think John Havlicek is that good that you can put him above someone like Stockton. Like, he was just such an insane player at the peak of his powers.
Well, we have some people that wire to wire to believe that John Stockton's a top 10 player. So, I mean, I don't know. if he's a top 10 player, as much as I like Hondo, he's not top 10. So, I don't know. He said playoff Rondo was amazing, but so you think playoff Rondo is one of the top 4 Celtics of all time? That's a high compliment.
Hey, playoff Rondo could be right there with foot on the line Avery Bradley.
Yeah.
Knocked down from 21 foot. But don't ask him to actually take a 3.
Or, you know what, Kyle? Like I said, you're closer to this than Brett or I. Do you think Tatum, because people forget Tatum, what is this for Tatum? Year 7 or 8? He's like 7 or 8 years into this. Like, it's Tatum in that top 4.
I think he ends up. This might be a hot take to some, but I think he ends up there at some point. Like, if he comes back, as long as this Achilles doesn't mess him up too much, and he comes back, even 95% of what he was. Yeah, I could see him cracking the top 4 of Celtics, and that's just absolutely high praise. But when you're a guy like Tatum who's allergic to not making the Eastern Conference Finals, at least he's had a lot of success so far in the first 8 years of his career.
He's just lived in the playoffs. I agree. I think if Tatum can come back and let's say he's close to 100%, or if he's not 100%, he's 95%. That guy is easily going to be eventually in the top 4 when it's all said and done easily.
No, absolutely. There we go, Bo. Next one, Mount Rushmore of niche players. Playoff Rondo, Hoodie Mello.
Hoodie Mello. I like that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no. I was seeing some interesting conversations about Carmelo, actually. They're questioning what tier of scorer is Carmelo Anthony? Because a lot of people for example, put him in with the big dogs in terms of score. International Evan Fournier's a
Fournier. Good one.
Because they're trying to figure it out. Because a lot of people like to put him as a top tier scorer, up there with the Kobe's, etc. And some people are pushing back, no, he's more like Adrian Dantley, Dominique Wilkins tier. And then there's this debate, and I was trying to figure out if we tier listed all the scores, like what group would Carmelo end up in?
That's an interesting tier that I would sign up for. It's interesting you said that because there is a video out on TikTok right now basically saying they believe that Dominique Wilkins was a better scorer than Carmelo Anthony. Interesting. Again, interesting take. My immediate take is I kind of think they're on the same plane. And I would actually give Melo the edge because he's a better ball handler than Nick. Nick didn't have a handle. Melo, especially young Melo in Denver, breaking you down off the dribble. When he got to New York, he did more facing up and pump fakes and then shooting. He didn't really break you down as much because I think about 2 or 3 years into his Knicks 10 years, his legs were gone. Melo on the Nuggets that's a tough cover. I don't think Dominique was ever that tough a cover.
You say it, say it. Man, I do wish Melo was able to win his ring at some point. It's funny. It feels like a lot of Melo not winning his ring just came down to wrong place at the wrong time, right?
Timing.
Like he's in the West. Okay, you're dealing with Kobe's Lakers, Duncan Spurs, and then you're like, oh, we'll go East. You go East, and then you get the formation of the Big Three right away. Like it really felt like Carmelo gets a little underrated, because people are like, oh, he didn't win a ring. He couldn't even make it out of the playoffs. But at the same time, like a lot of that just felt like timing. Like he still was the guy that took on Kobe in an absolute war of a Western Conference Finals.
I remember that. Don't forget, maybe it's his own fault, but Melo was supposed to be part of that Big Three.
Oh yeah.
His problem was when the Knicks offered him that guaranteed money when they were talking about doing a trade with the Nuggets. Had he waited, he only needed to wait until the following offseason, and instead of Chris Bosh, it would have been him. But he didn't wait, and that's on him. Like he just was impatient. And the Knicks trade was so bad because the Knicks traded away everybody to get him. And so when he got there, Amari was there, and Amari looked like Amari for like 2 seasons, and then Amari looked like he just was broken down, like he was done. But they had given away everything. It just had he and his agent really thought it through, like, dude, you could have joined LeBron and Wade, or you could have went to the Knicks as a free agent and got to play with everybody that they traded to the Nuggets. Like, you didn't have to do that. You could have avoided that.
No, absolutely. And and it's really unfortunate too, because when he goes to the Knicks, and not only were his knees gone, obviously their big acquisition was Amari Stoudemire, who also just his knees were just pulled pork by like the time 2013 rolled around. And that Knicks trade, they traded a lot of like quality starters for him, like Raymond Felton, quality, starting point guard at the time. Timothy Mozgov, most well known for scamming the Lakers. And then there's Wilson Chandler and Danilo Gallinari, who are both like legit pieces for, that mid 2010s for the Nuggets. So, and one of the first rounders they drafted Jamal Murray out of. So, in a way, I guess you can say Carmelo got him a ring.
Carmelo hooked the Nuggets up. Yeah, look, the more I think about it, I'd be really interested in doing that scorers tier, because I think it would be interesting where Melo would fall in when you compare him to guys like Iverson or T-Mac, Durant. I'm interested in that. I think that tier, the scorers tier, would be kind of amazing, and there'd be a lot of controversial picks.
Right, yeah, because the GOAT tier scores would just be GOAT tier scores would all be like a short list of like, Kobe, Durant, and then you got guys like Kareem. And then I think after those guys, it gets real interesting, right? Like LeBron, are you going to throw him there? I know a lot of people wouldn't, but I personally would.
You have to. How can you not? Like the guy's averaged 27 points a game for 20 years. Like I don't care that he doesn't do it in the most, I guess, in terms of does he look as fluent as Durant or as smooth as an SGA or something like that? No, but everything LeBron James does is as effective as anybody else. You know what I mean? Like it's effective. And to his credit, he did add a 3-point shot that he didn't have early in his career. Now he's a legitimate 3-point threat. You can't be the all-time leading scorer in the NBA and not get recognized as a scorer. He's absolutely. I've always rejected that stupid notion that the best thing he does is pass. That's not true. The best thing he does is score. He's a scorer who's always been a willing passer, but he's a scorer.
No, I completely agree with that. And I do think that the, bag conversations kind of ruined the discourse around him at times because they'll be like, oh, he doesn't have the bag. I'm like, okay, like if he can do four functional moves that you can't stop, like who cares? Like at the end of the day, he clearly, he added a 3-point shot after he lost in the 2011 finals. He went to work with Hakeem and added a post fade that he's absolutely mastered. That turnaround fit jumper is just nasty work. Like when you're LeBron, like, and you're as big and strong and as good as a passer as he is, like, you don't need to, do 27 hezzy tween dribbles to, free yourself. So
I like that LeBron is one of those guys that you don't have to say, keep it simple, stupid. Like, yeah, there might be guys who have more counters, but LeBron's like, what makes him one of one, 20 years in, he's still the biggest, most powerful, fastest perimeter player I've ever seen in the NBA, in the history of the NBA. Like, you forget he's a perimeter player, but he's a 6'9", 260-pound perimeter player. There's not. Where's the comp? I don't think there's a physical comp for him. The closest would be Zion, and I don't think he's close.
It's almost like there's some guys that you can maybe like you can never do a full comp on LeBron because the only few that you can like comp his like body or athleticism, none of them just have his IQ, and I think that's what separates them, right? Like Zion has the body, the athleticism, doesn't have the basketball IQ that LeBron does. Say someone like Josh Smith had the playmaking, the explosiveness, the frame. Didn't have LeBron's, IQ and decision making and quick reflexes. So
I think that's an understatement, but yeah.
Yeah, like you can get to players that can almost be like a LeBron James like light, but you're never gonna really find another like LeBron James who has the complete package like him.
Not to be able to do what he did or still does at his side, I think it is what makes him unique because he's a perimeter player, but because he is as big as he is, he can go down there on the other end of the floor and not have to necessarily guard a 2 or a 3 because he's big enough and strong enough to go guard a 4. And depending on what kind of 5 you have, he can guard your 5. That's unique. That's one of one. I look, you can't disrespect the all-time leading scorer in basketball, who, by the way, is going to add even more distance between him and second place. Like, he's going to be the all-time leading scorer by a massive gap. And I don't want to use the term never, but I feel comfortable in saying this. The guy that comes along that surpasses LeBron James, he's not been born yet. He's not been born yet. And I don't know if we're going to see him anytime soon. It's going to be that long before somebody comes along that can play at his level as long as he's played at his level.
And I agree with that. It's just you need to not only play for a long time, but you need to pretty much play full time. Like, because LeBron didn't really suffer any major injuries, and he pretty much played. He never played all 82 games, but he pretty much played in as many games as possible, all the way up until I would say the turning point was the 2021 season where he suffered that groin injury. After that, things kind of changed for him, but yeah, just to be able to sit there and even play 70 or so games every year for, as long as he did, that is insanely impressive, considering too that we're in an era that prioritizes the 3-point shot more. There's a lot more ground to cover. Offenses have just gotten more dynamic. And the one thing that was always certain that LeBron would always find a way to stay healthy and be there when you need him. So his health and ability to just stay in the best shape of his life always is just an incredible thing to witness.
100% agree with you. Again, I know, chat. You guys are going, what did these guys do? Turn this into the LeBron James Power Hour? No, we did our Mount Rushmores. We chopped it up, and the conversation really initially was about the scoring tiers, and I do think Brett's right. I do think there is no shortage of fans out there who would not have LeBron like high up on the tier, and I just out and out disagree with that.
No, absolutely. Don't worry, believe me. We'll we'll have to do that at some point. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll finish out the last Mount Rushmore next week, and then we'll start doing some fun tier lists. Hey, and listen, you can also do some fun tier lists. The season will be starting soon, so we'll have to start ranking some point guard or guards.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this year when we do it, we'll just kind of rank guards, forwards, and centers instead of trying to figure out starting point guard, starting shooting guard. We'll just put the guards kind of in the same conversation with
I like
each
that
other.
better. I like that better. That's gonna be. I think that makes for more debate too. I think that's gonna be fun. I was debating somebody. They were talking about Tony Parker. Here's the thing, and they were saying that Tony Parker was levels better than Kevin Johnson, and I was like, yeah, I don't think so. I love Tony Parker, but levels better than KJ? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Like, I would say if KJ got to play with Tim Duncan, he would have reaped some of the same rewards. Like, think about what KJ could do on the court. I'm talking about his strengths and his weaknesses. Like, he could do everything Tony Parker could do, and then he had another element. He could bang on your center. Tony Parker couldn't do that. And his mid-range was as deadly as anybody's. Like, I'm not looking at his career numbers or anything, but I believe for his career, he shot like 48 or 49% from the floor. Like, Kevin Johnson was a problem. His biggest bugaboo, obviously, if you followed his career, was he struggled with his ankles and his feet and was injured a lot. But when he played, just an electric player. And he did a feat that there's a bunch of Hall of Fame guards. I can name them. Over a 4-year period, he averaged 20 points and 10 assists. You know who never did that? Magic Johnson didn't do that. Isaiah Thomas didn't do that. Steph Curry never did that. Damian Lillard never did that. You could keep going and going. Find me the guard that did 20 and 10 over a 4-year period that was a point guard. You'd be hard pressed to find that guy.
I think the easiest way for me to put it is Kevin Johnson could do everything that Tony Parker could do. That being said, Tony Parker could not do everything that Kevin Johnson would do. It's just two completely different situations. And I think just as a basketball player, because I'm sure I could already see the argument for Tony Parker probably started and ended with like 4 rings.
Yes.
And I think if the reality is if you switched out, Parker and, KJ, the Spurs still have 4 rings, and you could argue they might have or say KJ still has 4 rings instead of Parker. And you could probably argue in a fifth at some point in there.
Right. And look, this isn't in no way am I saying I'm not a Tony Parker fan, because I am. And I think Tony Parker is one of the underrated postseason performers in NBA history. I'm simply saying, to just write off the conversation with, what are you talking about? Tony Parker's a 4-time champion. Kevin Johnson never won anything. I didn't ask you who was more successful. I said who's a better player. Not the same thing.
No, and that's the part that throws me off with that's why I always say I think ring culture kind of skewed a lot of basketball conversations, because you won a ring, that doesn't make you better than somebody who hasn't. And if I were to start a franchise tomorrow and you asked me Parker or KJ, I'd pick KJ every time.
And I don't, like I said, I'm not slighting Tony Parker, because there were many times, trust me, as a Laker fan, when Tony Parker sliced my Lakers up left and right, and I was like, please, somebody stop that guy. Tony Parker was ultra quick, terrific finisher around the basket, underrated shooter from the mid-range, great player. I just think that Kevin Johnson, he kind of gets lost in time because he did everything but win a title. But he's unique. Think about this. Kevin Johnson is a 5-time All-NBA performer, which is weird because he's only a 3-time All-Star, which means that clearly everybody recognized how great a player he is because he made All-NBA 5 times while only being a 3-time All-Star. That's kind of bizarre. It's kind of a bizarre stat, but that's to me, that's a testament to just how talented he was.
I think KJ could have had a ring. His only problem was he ran into Michael Jordan.
That sounds like a lot of people's problem, right? Like Sean Kemp could have had a ring, but
Yeah, like KJ started out that series slow, but then he really picked it up at the end. A 25-9-7 game, a 25-8 game, a 19-10, 19-4. Like, he started out the first 2 games rough, but yeah, he really picked it up at the end. And if it wasn't for, Michael Jordan being offended that Dan Marley was guarding him.
And don't forget, a couple of those games, they got Marley off of him and they put KJ on him, and he couldn't blow by KJ because he didn't have the quickness advantage. So what did Jordan do? He gave the ball to Pippen, and he went into the post, and he just ate KJ alive. Obviously because of the size and being able to just leap over the top of him, but KJ became more of a primary because he was just killing Dan Marley.
Say that. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. There wasn't much you could do with that first 3-peat, MJ, and that's why I always say that the first 3-peat was the better of the 2 3-peats, because at the end of the day, that was the best Jordan. That was like the perfect blend of his athleticism was still like as close to peak Jordan as it was, but he had a post game, and there genuinely wasn't anything that you could do with him at that point besides hope that he misses, which 50% shooter from a guard, he wasn't really missing a whole heck of a lot.
No, not enough. I would say that, not enough.
Say Thunder Dan, yeah.
Thunder Dan was nice. Anybody that don't remember those Suns teams, they had a nice squad. Barkley, Thunder Dan, Kevin Johnson, Tom Chambers. Even though this was Tom Chambers on the other side of his prime, I believe they had Richard Dumas. They didn't have Cedric Smalls. They had Richard Dumas. They had a nice squad there. They had a nice squad. Oliver Miller. Remember Oliver Miller?
Oh, yeah. Gotta love Oliver Miller. That's all we had for you guys tonight. Anything you wanted to add before we get up on out of here, Mo?
Oh, no, I just want to thank the chat. Damien, appreciate you. Kyle, a.k.a. Chomping at the Bit, coming in, hustling, doing your thing. Chat, you keep us live. Everybody that's following us from whatever platform you're following us on, thank you guys. Make sure you join Brett and I. Are we doing a morning show?
I'm in.
Catch Brett and I tomorrow morning. Coffee Sports in the morning show. And we appreciate you. Thank you guys.
And we're going to be talking some sports, obviously, but we'll be talking a lot of wrestling.
Yeah.
It'll be a great time. We'll be touching on some controversial subjects, like some, to me, really bad ideas, like from one Bully Ray saying that a great idea for John Cena's retirement tour should be on his last match and his last day there, bring Vince McMahon back, which sounds like a terrible idea.
God.
So please,
Don't do that.
let's not listen to Bully. I think Bully Ray has a wealth of knowledge about the wrestling business. Please don't listen to him on that one. Don't give the WWE any ideas, because at this rate, who knows?
Agreed.
But thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you for tuning in to the And One podcast. If you like our content, you can find more on the Wire to Wire Podcast Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Want more And One? Find it on Wire to Wire. Like and share our Facebook page and join the And One Discord. Grab the link to join from our Facebook. Thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful